What's going on, everyone? So today I have a very special episode. I have made a new friend here. His name's Gene Inger. He writes the Inger letter, and he's been in finances and the stock market for decades. And he's coming on. He's been kind enough to give us some of his time and talk to us a little bit about his experience in the market, his thoughts on the current state of tech, his opinions on the disruptive nature of potentially where quantum is going. And then he even has some bonus content. We're going to talk a little bit about BigBear.ai. So we've got a lot to cover in a short period of time. Gene, welcome to the show. You are officially the first guest ever on the Quantum Bull. So welcome. And tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Well, I appreciate the invite. I've done podcasts, but it's rare these days. I do comments on X every morning, but that's typically text only, and my blog at night. But in any event, by the way, I absolutely love your website. It is well thought out. It's meticulous. It's creative. And I'm not trying to be patronizing. I just think you're doing a great job with it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Now, if the quantum stocks would only finish consolidating and have another phase of advance, then I'd be really happy.
So Gene, you reached out to me on thequantumbull.com, and I know you follow Will Rich on YouTube. Is that right? Okay, yeah. And Will Rich is definitely one of my favorite YouTubers and does a lot of great early discovery for different tech space.
Yeah, I found Will because he it turned out I saw he was the only guy I've seen that was covering several tickers that I'm following currently, Rigetti, D-Wave, and so on, and Big Bear. And I said, okay, let me see what this guy has to say about it. I generally don't watch that many YouTube videos, and I found yours, and here we are, and it's sort of interesting. But so when I grow up, I can possibly do this myself.
So let me show my audience real quick. So when Gene first reached out to me, he forwarded me his Inger letter, and this is a daily market forecasting report that he sends out to his subscribers. And there's information on the ingerletter.com about the Inger letter, but I'm just going to scroll through real quickly here. And one of the things that I was super impressed with is just the level of detail, the attention to detail, especially in a day and age where we have so much AI and just kind of lazy writing, where I'm scrolling and there is just a lot of meat on the bone here, Eugene. And I think I said the words "holy shit" right when I responded. And you can see he has here in his most recent letter, NVIDIA GTC information about the VIX, world news and events, the S&P 500 for the first 100 days in office for different presidents. And you get this type of information in your inbox every single day. And we just gotta say, great job. I'm still scrolling and there's still great information. So, Gene,
I need to condense it. I have promised my subscribers for a long time that I'm going to do either text or video, but not both. And sometimes I skip the video, and I usually end up typing too much. But I think at some point, arthritic fingers are going to make me limit this. Either that or voice dictation will need to understand me. I think there's a history of that. When I was doing financial television for 20 some years, your major networks would give you sound bites, the Dow this, the S&P that. There's no explanation, or you get headlines. And I call that soundbite journalism. So I think what I'm doing in my product now is closer to what I did on television, which is Many years ago, and maybe your dad would recall, there was a radio guy by the name of Paul Harvey. Paul Harvey was on the Mutual Network, which doesn't exist. Paul would give you the story as the mainstream media would give you the story. Then he'd go to a commercial break, and he'd come back, and then he'd tell you what it really meant and what's going to happen next. And he would then say, and now you know the rest of the story. And every night on the radio, he would finish his reports with, now you know the rest of the story.
Gene, tell me, you had a connection to CNBC, and now you're writing the Inger letter. So just tell me kind of that connection, that progression. When did you start writing the Inger letter?
Well, there was 1970.
Okay.
And when I was 2. In junior high school. No, that 1970. I started on Wall Street in 67. I started trading stocks when I was 13 years old. And the problem we have in this market, which is where we come to today, is you don't have the real participation. You had better participation since Trump won, but that honeymoon ended about a month ago, and you've had a momentum stocks break, and you have a difficult situation in the market, which can swing either way.
Let's talk. We still have got two things that I want to cover. So what now you've talked about kind of the history of the market and some of the calls you've made, both bearish and bullish. And I know I've seen in your Inger letter, you cover quantum and you cover AI and you cover NVIDIA. So what is your current thoughts on quantum, and how do you see this developing in the next 5 years?
Actually, I'd like your thoughts on quantum, but I guess that's a separate video, huh? But I don't know. I think, 5 years. You had a bit of a mea culpa from Jensen today, which he didn't. He actually used the word mea culpa when he met at the very end. Did you watch all 3 stages of his discussion? And there was a lady. Yep. Well, there was a lady from Microsoft, and he said, "Do you think that satisfies as a mea culpa?" Which means he knows what he did weeks ago. He knows he broke that market, and I suspect the reason he's doing this Boston with MIT, I think, and maybe Harvard Quantum Research Center, I would not be surprised that this is not to really help those other companies, but to get him in a position to know who's doing what when, so he can acquire one of them.
You know, this is a $3 trillion company, and what boggles my mind about this whole situation, because I just put out a video earlier on this, and if there's even a small chance that what Alan is saying, what Dr. Baratz is saying about annealing and about optimization and AI, he looked over at Jensen and he said, Jensen asked, where do you guys think a year from now, what do you think the conversation is going to be? And Alan said to him, he said something along the lines of, you're going to be glad that quantum is helping improve your systems and efficiency and energy. And I'm thinking, if I'm Jensen, I go in the panel and I say, okay, we've got an hour. NVIDIA's got $10 million to invest. Convince me which one of you gets it. And if it's a tie, you each get, and so the whole the market would have soared. But instead, you know, it's this kind of there's tension on the stage, and you know, there's some disrespect shown. I think Jensen had said he didn't even know that quantum companies were publicly traded, which came out today, and that was a little confusing to me.
Well, maybe a couple of them shouldn't be yet. But
yeah, probably looking at their financials. Let's be realistic. But the quantum stock, the quantum trade isn't traded on financials at this point. It's traded on potential, or hopium, as some people would call it.
You're absolutely right. I'm in D-Wave since $2 a share. Okay. I'm not trading it. I'm just holding it, some of it. Probably should have traded it. My train of thought, I have some Rigetti, but it's more of I'm surprised it didn't go lower after what I consider to be an absolutely mediocre analyst call after their earnings. I was listening to that.
That was puzzling.
That was puzzling.
It was puzzling.
5 times he said, we're a research firm, not five. Why is he emphasizing that? And then they get the investment from Japan, from Quanta. I don't put that together. And the stock went up the next day, which was puzzling as well.
So, okay. So it seems like it's pretty clear there's a PR gap, at least, at the very least.
So this is an opportunity for you personally.
I mean, that's why I made the Quantum Bull, because I wanted to help, like I'm doing this for fun. I wanted to try to at least help with some of my skill sets and try to communicate some of these concepts, because I think investors, what they want, and we've seen this play out as a theme in the market, right? They want certainty. And this panel today, they didn't get certainty.
No, they did not.
They didn't get certainty at all. They got ambiguity.
Okay. Alan has, first of all, your website and what you're doing could turn into a financial PR business, investor relations and they need it for some of these quantum companies. Just aside.
And that's not my motivation. My motivation really, like when I built the Quantum Bull, was just to appeal to different audiences, because I also see an education gap. So besides there's different problems, right? It's like we have the perception, and actually Jensen talked about this today when he was in the interview. He said, well, we think of computers as something that can run Excel or play Crisis, right? And he made a joke out of it, and the audience laughed. And that is what the most common conception of a computer is.
He wanted to call it instrument instead of computer.
And that is the common conception of what a computer is, right? And he wanted to call it an instrument, and then he got pushback from Dr. Baratz. And Dr. Baratz says, well, hold on, like, how are you calling it an instrument when our company is making money from commercial clients right now today?
I know why, because he wants to relegate it to the research and development stage, the scientific experiment stage, as opposed to a viable commercial tool.
So what's the angle, right? Like, I'm thinking,
the angle is you hold some of these stocks with patience. You expect more money to flow in, not simply a $20,000 NASA contract like QUBT got, but they may get more. Who knows?
I don't know anything about QUBT. I don't know if you do, but that company mystifies me.
Well, first of all, there are people who say it does exist.
So that's good, because I heard a Mitt on YouTube. He said today that they're trading at something like they're $1 billion market cap with $60,000 quarterlies. Like
that's right.
Yeah,
that's correct, and that doesn't matter because that's not what you're buying.
And then you look at a stock like SoFi, who almost is at $1 billion quarterlies. And you look at these quantum stocks, and they're the same price, right? Like QBTS hit $12 this week, right? It touched $12, was flirting with $12, and we know almost as a fact that SoFi's next quarterly is going to be $1 billion in one quarter.
By the way, $12 was my target for now, and warning people that there will be some sell the news. I know, depending how that panel went, it could have been different today. But I think you will see 12. I think you'll see higher than 12, and you might see it next week. You know why, right?
Qubits.
Yes, and
because now D-Wave controls the narrative. They control the microphone. They control the cameras. You're not playing on home turf, and you did see that tension in the panel today. You saw visible discomfort both from Jensen and people on the panel, and I a little bit confusing, right? Because isn't it in everyone's best interest to play nice, right?
No, Jensen's not trying to play nice. Jensen's trying to get in front of this and he wants to control it when it takes over. He's got the assets and the resources, but he actually slipped in a line where he said in 10 years, NVIDIA could be a relic. Do you remember that?
Well, and he said it very tongue in cheek, but I'm like, aren't you actually worried about that? Because BlackBerry happened, right? Intel happened.
Let me be specific. The day he made that in the interview, that comment about everything being 20 years out, who reinforced him? One guy, Zuckerberg, Meta. Everyone, well, at Meta, you got to respect that. Not exactly. I believe his orders for Blackwell are somewhere in the vicinity of $600 million. He's a customer, and they're building all these data centers. Meta doesn't want to go out and build data centers for, say, $100 million that are last generation powered.
So here's my question too. So
I think Jensen was talking his book. The whole thing was.
I agree with that, but Jensen knows more than anyone that every AI data center you build, you have to build a power plant. And these things are sucking the grid dry.
So what am I not covering and not recommending? I'm not buying Constellation. I'm not buying the data center builders. I'm not buying the small miniature nuclear power companies that might be for a data center, because I think you're going to end up with lower power consumption. Maybe it needs to be cold, not hot, or room temperature. And by the way, QUBT, I don't know much about them, but one thing I do know is they're claiming that theirs is room temperature operating.
Which, we will see.
And by the way, they do. The reason people think that stock is not legit, it is legit. Because they say, well, it was a beverage company years ago. Not exactly. They bought the beverage company, and that was their way of going public without paying Goldman Sachs or somebody the big fees on Wall Street. Instead of doing a SPAC IPO, they just bought a company which they acquire themselves. There's another little company that one day will do good called LightPath. I don't know if you know that one or not.
I don't.
LightPath bought a bigger company that was privately held, which and it looks like who bought who, you wonder. And that's sort of what happened. They were not in the beverage business, the Quantum Computer Inc. But that's not my favorite. My favorite has been D-Wave all along because it's something that can be commercial. And here's the question for you for next week. What about the rumor or did you start it, that D-Wave is going to come up with some sort of combination, annealing and gate computer?
So that wasn't me, for sure, because this is the first time hearing of it. So when I attend the Qubits conference, I hope to have some conversations with some of these people. Just some conversations. If I get a chance to meet Dr. Baratz, awesome. If not, that's also fine. I'm planning to talk to and learn from hopefully the scientists. Maybe get some interviews. Who knows? But I do like to bookend the quantum piece of this. We know what this to me, it feels like it's a little bit of good and bad. We see NVIDIA has made a move towards quantum, an actual investment, a move towards quantum with their center.
It's not snake oil.
It's actually an actual real tangible investment, which is good for quantum overall in the long term. And on the short term, the optics of this panel, I mean, you could see it in the charts. Every single quantum ticker was down because investors want to be excited. They want to see the commercial value. They want to imagine the possibilities, and the CEOs just aren't delivering that, even capturing the imagination. So that's something.
Maybe they can't, except for D-Wave,
which is where Alan and that tension is quite interesting. And we'll see that development. And now we're going on. I'll definitely we're going to bookend the quantum piece now. And you talked about one more ticker,
By the way, Will is also going to Scottsdale.
Yep. Yeah. We're planning to meet there. So I'm looking forward to meeting with him.
I should go out and join you guys for
Yeah,
cocktails.
you should. Yeah. So last one, BigBear.ai. So I have an irrational attachment to Big Bear, and I was on the boards at $2 in November, September, October of last year, just saying, wait, look at this company, something's different. This is a good company. This is a good play, and there's always been this secretive nature about how they operate, and we've seen recently new 10K filings. Oh, we're revising our previous 10Ks. We're revising our previous 10Ks. We may dilute shareholders in the process. We have a new CEO. We're cleaning up our act. We're going to get, we saw this huge run up to $10, $11. Now we're back down at $3. We're back to big baby AI. We're not a big bear anymore. So what is really happening with Big Bear? Because I haven't lost faith. I don't care if it's $2 or $3. If it goes under $4, I'm buying more.
I've been in and out of it several times with the earlier moves 2 or 3 years ago, even in that stock. And they had at one point we were in and got out when they got a $900 million Air Force contract. Second of all, as far as the secret, we're in it now. And for example, I had like leaps, long-term options. I have a bunch of them. I did something today. I didn't think I'd get filled, but I did. I rolled them forward to June. I had options expiring tomorrow with the strike. Tomorrow's is quarterly expiration, which is one of the big ones. And my options have a strike of 1.
Holy smokes.
And I paid like almost nothing for them. This is when the common stock was in the 1s or maybe pushing 2. I paid like 20 cents. I don't remember what it was, but almost nothing. And I rolled them forward for 5 cents. Wow. I put it in order. It's almost nothing, 5 cents. So I put in the 5-cent order on all of this, and to my shock, it filled.
Huh. Wow. Good for you.
And why did I do that? Because I want to get through this meeting. I want to get through whatever dilution or not dilution, whatever happens in the next 2 weeks. I want to give them a chance to get through a couple security conferences, perhaps even get another contract or two, and see where I stand. Because obviously, before I put more cash in it, I'd just as soon sit with the options, providing I was able to roll them for pennies, which is what I was able to do. I also have thousands of shares that I own already of the common stock that I've had for that long. As those were other one strike options that already came about. So I have a sizable position, and I wish, and as of the last few days, I feel like I wish I didn't.
I think it's so to me with long-term investing, I guess. So first of all, some of those big contracts they picked up recently, right? That we've heard about and that made the stock move.
And they're going to lead to more.
They're going to lead to more.
Let me offer the key thought. The key thought to me is that they are like secret agents. That's what you said. It's like the CIA or the NSA, and there's a reason. Most of them come from the CIA and the NSA. and of course, McAleenan, the CEO, was former head of Custom and Border Protection and briefly acting director of Department of Homeland Security. But I will tell you something that might be key to this. I believe he's a Stanford grad and law school. He's a lawyer. And what he's doing, in my opinion, is cleaning out the garbage, sweeping it aside, getting rid of the debt, and it's on the back of the shareholders as opposed to doing a PIPE, private investment in public equity. I'm
okay with it. As a shareholder, I'm
okay with it as well, but I don't think people understand it. When you look at the chat boards and so on, and they're tearing their hair out, this is what you're paying now, short-term pain for longer-term gain. And I also believe something else that goes back to business. In the past 2 years with Mandy Long as CEO, they had higher estimates that were not, and then they would disappoint and not reach those numbers. Now he gave a very lower than street. He gave like 45 or 47 million instead of 54 million, something like that. He gave or 150, 160 for the year revenue. I think they'll do more than that with any reasonable luck. I think what you saw is, again, the new CEO with a different mindset. Reduce the debt, wipe it out as much as you can. They have 60 open positions for computer engineers with security clearances. So what are they hiring them for? They're not hiring them to go out and push the stock. They're hiring them to do the work for the various federal agencies, airlines, FAA, hospitals, what have you, that will be their clientele. So I think what's happening is the CEO wants to clean this up and then under promise and over deliver. You know that?
I couldn't agree more. And I know they missed on their last earnings. And what actually made the stock move from that 3-ish to that $10 price point was the
Joint Chiefs of Staff.
The Joint Chiefs, right? But we had the two big contracts. And those should hit Q1 2025 is my understanding. Is that your understanding as well?
No, which two big contracts?
So the catalysts for BigBear.ai earlier this year were, so we had,
the Office of the Secretary of Defense, and that's a small one, but it can eventually grow to encompass every base in the world.
Yeah. So they had this might have been in December or November of last year, but they had the uncapped 10-year military contract, right?
You're talking about IDIQ?
Yes.
Indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity. Yeah.
The Oasis plus IDIQ. Yep.
Yeah, that basically gives permission to many commanders at various bases and Navy. This was the Navy. To basically they can order procurement without going through certain channels at the Pentagon. It expedites matters. Yes, you're right. That is a very big deal. I wondered about that. I have one of my best friends is a senior engineer on certain classified aircraft at a certain, I better not name, major, one of the three largest defense contractors. And when I told him that they got IDIQ, he said that was a very good omen for the future.
I remain incredibly bullish on Big Bear, even if it's irrational. They can dilute me down to $1. I don't care. I'm in it for the long haul.
But without those longer term contracts, they've got $400 million in backlog.
And if they're cleaning up their debt situation, all the comparisons to Palantir start making more and more sense.
Yes, and may I add that the term backlog of $400 million is not saying the same thing as pipeline. Pipeline is more what you envision as far as where you think your company is going. Backlog means based on signed business that's in-house, this is how much is still pending. You're not waiting for it to be signed, it's signed.
Well, Gene, this has been a pleasure. Thank you for coming on the show. I think we've got a chance to have some really great analysis of some different things going on in the market. And if you're interested in hearing more from Gene, check out the Inger letter. It's on the ingerletter.com, which will be in my comments. Gene, thanks again for reaching out.
Follow me on X. And one day, if you ever want to chat again, we can talk about SoundHound.
I also love SoundHound. I backed up the truck to build a position in SoundHound before their earnings, and they're getting beat down to a pulp. They're at $9 or $10, and this company, the trajectory, the money.
I made it from 2, and I also bought the warrants, and I sold my warrant when it was at 12, and then the warrants went to 18, and the warrants are back down to 3 or 4. And I was mad at myself that I sold them. I might buy them back. I still got the common, and I think all they need is one major. Burger King domestically would do it. McDonald's would send the stock to 25 again.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Gene,
enjoyed it.
A pleasure. Thanks for coming on. And great chatting with you. And you have a great day.
Cheers.